Hey guys, it's Eddie and today I am back with another video for you all, another kind of different video. Now it was requested of me that I make a part 2 of my childhood traumas, what scared me as a kid video, where I talked about the kind of movies and TV show moments that terrified me as a child because I'd seen some of the same sort of videos floating about YouTube, and I just kind of got inspired because I'd recently been talking about it with my friends. So I thought, hey, I'll jump on YouTube and, I don't know, ramble on about what terrified me as a kid. So today I'm back. I racked my brains and I thought, what else really sort of freaked me out when I was a child? And it turns out that I was able to come up with a few rather terrifying memories of things that really shook me up when I was a kid. So without further ado, let's get talking about them. Now, I've written these in my, I would call it a bullet journal, but it's not really, because I've recently been getting into like watching bullet journal spreads and flip throughs on YouTube, and they are just the most glorious, neat and beautiful books that I've ever seen created by human beings in my life, and mine is just like a complete mess. It's like literally just like scroll. So yeah, this is where I've got all my notes written down, and the first one that I've got written is Shelob from Lord of the Rings Return of the King. Now, as I mentioned in the previous one, I was terrified by Gollum as a kid, but it wasn't just Gollum that troubled me from the Lord of the Rings movie series. No. I would call myself the female Ronald Weasley when it comes to spiders. I'm absolutely terrified. I have been ever since I can remember. As a child, I was terrified by them. Now, there is that infamous scene in The Return of the King where Gollum leads Frodo and Sam into Shelob's lair. They are rather unsuspecting because they're trying to get to Mordor, they're trying to get rid of the ring, but Gollum throws a giant spider in the works before they can do that. And I always dreaded this as a kid whenever I was watching it and it would come on. I was almost going to put Aragog from Chamber of Secrets on this list because they're both giant spiders, and Aragog even talked, so that was quite terrifying for me as a child. But there was something about Shelob that just pipped it for me as a kid, and I don't know, it was all the sort of like squealing noises and it's like little daggery stinger at the end that like pierced Frodo through the stomach. Let me tell you, as a child, I was royally freaked out. And obviously, the combined force of Gollum, sort of singing creepily while Frodo was sort of trapped in Shelob's web, was just a memory that I won't easily forget from my childhood. I can watch it now perfectly fine. I mean, not perfectly, because I've still got a severe case of arachnophobia, but I can watch it and I'll be fine. But as a kid, Shelob, the giant spider from Lord of the Rings, was not a happy memory for me, and it was a struggle. It really was. Now, going from Shelob to something that now talking about it seems absolutely ridiculous, and that is Nunu from the Teletubbies. Yes, I'm talking about the Hoover. I don't know. I just remember being a little bit freaked out by this guy, and I think it was just like the noise that he made. I don't know why, but I remember sort of it getting my back up and like making me feel quite tense as a child. It's not one of the most horrifying and scary moments from my childhood, but I just remember that he as a character made me feel a little bit uncomfortable compared to the rest of the Teletubbies gang. So yeah, Nunu was not my best friend as a kid. I do think I had a toy of him. My mum tells me often that I had a toy of him. Whenever I see him, I'm like, ugh, Nunu. But she tells me that I had like a little figure of him, but I don't remember it. So it's probably the case that I didn't play with it that often because I didn't like Nunu. And the next thing on my list is the Queen. transformed into the old haggard woman in Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, the Disney cartoon. There she is, looking absolutely terrifying. I remember I would be fine watching the film. I watched it a lot as a kid. I was a big fan of Disney, and I would always watch this film, and then when she transformed into the old woman to try and, you know, coax Snow White into eating the apple, and she sort of peered through the window of the little cottage, I would just, ugh, it just didn't sit right with me as a kid. And it was just her face and the sort of, I don't know, I think the old Disney films have a tendency to be like rather terrifying in weird ways. I remember like seeing like lists of like things that like scared people as a kid, and it was like Fantasia. Bits from Fantasia were often regarded as really scary for kids, but it was the old transformed queen from Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs that scared me. I didn't like her at all, and I would dread the moment when the queen would transform from what I thought was like a really cool, awesome, beautiful queen into a really, really creepy old woman. So yeah, that wasn't good for me. I mentioned earlier that Aragog was something from Harry Potter that wasn't a great memory. But he was pipped by Shelob. But there is something from Harry Potter that did scare me as a kid, and I can't really tell you why. I think that's something with childhood trauma, things that you remember, is that you can't explain why they scared you. And especially with this one, I have no idea why this one scared me so much. But it was in Philosopher's Stone when Quirrell removed his turban in front of the Mirror of Erised, and there was Voldemort on the back of his head, and I don't know why, but whenever I was watching the videotape of Philosopher's Stone, I had to like forward it and skip through it until the end when Harry was like safe and eating earwax flavoured Bertie Bott's every flavoured beans in the hospital wing with Dumbledore. I was like, I'm safe now, I'm safe, because there was something about Voldemort being on the back of Quirrell's head that really freaked me out, and I honestly cannot tell you why. I still cannot come up with a logical explanation for why I was so scared of it as a kid, but to me, at the time, it was very creepy, very weird, and yeah, I just didn't like it, and I really can't explain it to you, I'm sorry. I realise I've gone through these really quickly, but my last childhood trauma that I do recall from my childhood is Monster House. The whole movie. The whole movie. I think I watched it maybe once and never watched it again. But it was so terrifying that it stuck with me to this day. I can't remember how old I was when I watched it, but whew, I don't know. It was the actual house and the old man, and that was, you know, like really terrifying. And then like the boy would get phone calls in the middle of the night from the house and there was no one in it, supposedly. It still freaks me out a little bit to this day. I don't know why it was marketed to kids, because when I saw it I was severely terrified. Obviously watching it now I'd be fine, but when I watched it as a kid I was like, this is horrible. And yeah, I think with Monster House, I think compared to the other things that I've mentioned, there is a little bit more cause for me being scared of it, because it was about something that was supposedly scary. It was like aimed to be scary, I think. Or maybe it wasn't and I was just a little bit of a weakling and got really scared by it when I shouldn't have. But yeah, I do remember being really scared by that whole film, and I wouldn't touch it again after I'd seen it once because I could barely get through it the first time as a child. So yeah, that is one of the not so pleasant memories from my childhood. But that's all of the childhood traumas that I could actually remember. It took me long enough to sort of drag the memories from my brain and recall like what scared me. But I do sort of floating around the internet, I saw that, you know, the typical scares were like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when they were like going through the tunnel on the boat. The Dark Crystal, Watership Down, all of those things were like the typical things that really scared people as a kid. But for me, it was like Nunu and like the back of Quirrell's head in Harry Potter. So yeah, some of my scares are slightly weird now that I realise it, but I think everyone's different, and everyone, especially as a kid, has different perceptions of things, and different things scare them, whether they be weird or not, or completely unexplainable. So yeah, that is part two of my childhood traumas video. I hope you guys have enjoyed this little two-parter thing that I've done. Remember, please, I'd be so interested if you commented down below to let me know what things scared you as a kid, if you can recall, because I always think that it's a really interesting topic to sort of chat about. It's just really interesting to see what scared people, and you know, the different things that sort of triggered you as a child. But yeah, that is it. I hope you guys have enjoyed this sort of different kind of video again. But remember, if you have a movie for me to review, you can comment below or message me on my Tumblr. Link is always in the description. But that's it for now. Thanks for watching this video, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!